How does an innocent college student turn into a flesh-eating monster in less than 24 hours? One bad date with the wrong girl was all it took for his entire life to be ripped away. He thought he was just walking his crush home. Instead, he woke up in a hospital bed with an appetite for human flesh and no way to turn back. So, without wasting your time, let's start the video. Episode 1 is called Tragedy, and it opens up with a gruesome scene. A female ghoul has made her way onto the top floor of a skyscraper, and now, she's happily feasting on everyone unfortunate enough to cross her path. So ghouls are basically just human-looking monsters who eat nothing but human flesh. Anyway, the ghoul doesn't get too far into her meal when another, much larger male ghoul appears and informs her that he has been ordered to capture her alive. He clearly underestimates her though, because she quickly escapes, stealing his weapon in the process. The next day, we get introduced to a bookworm college freshman. Yup, this is our very own Ken Kaneki, as he sits in his favorite coffee shop called the Inteku Cafe, with his childhood friend Hideyoshi, or Hide. But Kaneki isn't there just for the coffee. He is waiting on his crush Rize Kamishiro, who also loves coming there just as much as Kaneki. He is dying to ask her out, so when he discovers that they both love the same author, they make plans to visit the bookstore together. The date goes great. They bond over literature, go to lunch, and then to the bookstore. At the end of it all, Rize even asks Kaneki if he could walk her home, because she lives where all the ghoul attacks have been happening. Of course, being a gentleman, Kaneki agrees, but things take a sharp left turn after that. Yeah, it was all too good to be true for a while, wasn't it? As they reach Rize's stop, Kaneki finds out, very painfully, why Rize hadn't been eating anything at lunch. Because, of course, the only thing ghouls can eat is human flesh. It turns out Rize was the binge eater we had seen at the start of the episode. However, just as she was about to turn Kaneki into her next victim, a large iron beam falls on top of her, taking her out instantly. Kaneki couldn't care less about that though, because her bite had left him severely injured. Our boy here was practically floating in and out of consciousness as paramedics rushed to the scene. After all that drama, Kaneki wakes up in a hospital with a half Kakugan, which is the red eyes that all ghouls have. Why? Well, because he received organ transplants from Rize, also the doctors could save his life. Kaneki doesn't know this at first, but after noticing that he has no appetite for normal food, he began testing himself. He begins to panic after realizing he has all the characteristics of a ghoul, such as an indestructible stomach and zero appetite for normal food. So he decides to hide out in his apartment, which doesn't help much because his cravings for flesh drive him out into the public and right into another ghoul who is eating a corpse. As the ghoul offers Kaneki a bite of this very tasty meal, they both get beat up by another ghoul who claims authority over the area. However, not long after that, Kaneki gets saved by Tuka, the waitress at his favorite coffee shop, who is also, surprise surprise, a ghoul. Tuka tells him to finish the corpse the other ghouls have been fighting over, but Kaneki refuses as he's still half human, and he can't stomach the idea of eating a dead person. This doesn't faze Tuka though, who runs up and forces a piece of dead flesh into Kaneki's mouth. Yikes. Episode 2, titled Incubation, picks right back up in the alleyway. Yoshimura, who is a ghoul and the owner of the Inteku Cafe, stops Tuka from beating up Kaneki. Yoshimura then asks Kaneki to come back with him to the cafe. Back at the cafe, he reveals to Kaneki that the shop is actually a hideout for the ghouls in the 20th ward, which is the name of the area Kaneki lives in. He then shows Kaneki how to down his urges for flesh by drinking coffee, which is the only human food ghouls can eat without getting sick. After some time, Kaneki returns to school with an eye patch to cover up his Kakugan because he can't control it fully. Ide, his best friend, is happy to see him but notices how pale Kaneki's skin is and tells him to eat more. Ide then asks Kaneki to follow him to visit Nishio, an upperclassman that he had met on campus. Much to his shock, Kaneki finds out that Nishio was actually the ghoul who had him beat up in the alley earlier that week. As they meet, both ghouls act casual, but when Nishio invites Hide to his place, Kaneki quickly offers to join, suspecting it's a trap and that Nishio plans to eat Hide. Turns out, Kaneki was absolutely right. The moment they let their guard down, Nishio attacks them both and knocks Hide unconscious. As he's getting beat up by Nishio, Kaneki gets a flashback of his lifelong friendship with Hide, remembering that Hide was the only person he had after his parents died. This emotional moment finally unleashes Kaneki's Kagune, which is the organ ghouls use to fight or hunt. Kaneki then completely mauls Nishio, despite having zero fighting experience. But Kaneki hasn't eaten any flesh since Tuka fed him in the alley, and now the hunger is back, even stronger than before. Kaneki loses control and is only moments away from eating Hide until Tuka shows up just in time to stop him. Honestly, the way she keeps popping up to save Kaneki needs to be studied. For now though, both Kaneki and Hide are safe and recovering back at the Enteiku Cafe under Yoshimura's care. At Enteiku, Yoshimura comforts Kaneki because Kaneki thinks that being a half-breed means he doesn't belong in either world. Yoshimura reminds Kaneki that he belongs to both the human and ghoul worlds, assuring him that he is not alone. And after that, he also offers Kaneki a job at the cafe. Just before the episode ends though, we meet Mado Kureo, this guy right here with the crazy eyes, along with Kotaro Amon. These guys are top investigators from the Commission of Counter-Ghoul, or CCG for short. Investigators at the CCG are called doves, and they have one single task: kill all ghouls. Their team is made up of humans who have been trained to track down and fight ghouls. Plus, there are CCG buildings in every ward in Tokyo, so that they can respond quickly to ghoul sightings or attacks. Of course, this wouldn't be a fair fight for the humans if they can't keep up with the ghoul's speed or strength. So all CCG investigators are given weapons called Queen K. A Queen K is made from the kagane of a dead ghoul and has the ability to puncture a ghoul's skin. But if a Queen K isn't enough to stop a ghoul, then an Arata should do the trick. This is basically a full body armor that increases a human's physical abilities. There is one drawback though. An Arata uses the blood of the person wearing it, so investigators really only use it if they have no choice. Well, now that Mado has found the weapon Rize took from the ghoul who attacked her in episode 1, he and Amon are now tracking him down. This should be interesting. The next episode, called Dove, introduces us to Yamori, the male ghoul who tried fighting Rize in episode 1. Yamori loves torturing people, so it's no surprise that he's a big fan of Jason Voorhees from the movie Friday the 13th. Yamori even wears the same mask that Jason wears in the movie, so the CCG has nicknamed him Jason from the 13th Ward. Well, Yamori hasn't been able to torture anyone after Rize stole his torture device at the skyscraper, so he goes off to get it replaced. This is where we meet the peaceful ghoul family of Dr. Fueguchi, his wife Ryoku, and their daughter Hinami. Yamori has been getting torture devices from Dr. Fueguchi for a while now, mostly because he threatens to kill Dr. Fueguchi's family if he doesn't get what he wants. But this time is different, and Dr. Fueguchi can sense Yamori isn't just here to get tools, so he sends his wife and daughter to Enteiku for safety. Back at the CCG, things are getting intense now that Mado and Amon have been put in charge of the 20th Ward. This is mainly because of Rize's binge eating at the skyscraper, and Jason being spotted around the area. Meanwhile, at Enteiku, Yoshimura introduces Kaneki to Yomo, who brings Kaneki on a scavenger hunt for food. Basically, they go to a certain mountain where persons who no longer wish to stay on Earth come here to take their last breath. Yikes. Well, at least it's a lot better than killing random humans, but things are about to get a whole lot harder now that Mado and Amon have started wreaking havoc on ghouls in the 20th Ward. This causes Yoshimura to ask Tuka to bring Kaneki to Uta, so he can make a mask for Kaneki. Uta is a strange ghoul who enjoys spending his free time making the best masks for ghouls all around. The masks protect ghouls' identities so they can't be tracked by the CCG doves. Anyways, things are looking up at the cafe now that Kaneki and Hinami have become good friends. Hinami also loves the same author as Kaneki, so he starts helping her to learn the words in the book, which pleases Tuka. But she will be damned before she admits that. But just as things start to feel normal again, a familiar face drops into the cafe that changes the whole mood. And not for the better. Episode 4 is called Supper, and it reveals the person who popped into the cafe in the last episode. It's Tsukiyama. Not the guy you want to see if you plan on having a good date, that's for sure. You see, Tsukiyama is what is known as a Kakuja in the TG universe, and Kakuja are basically cannibal ghouls. Knowing this, Tuka tells Kaneki to be careful after Tsukiyama takes an interest in him. The warning falls on deaf ears though, because when Tsukiyama visits Kaneki at school to invite him to a coffee date, Kaneki agrees only because he doesn't want to hurt Tsukiyama's feelings. Jeez, after what happened with Rize, you would think he would learn to stop going on dates with purple-haired baddies. Anyway, that night after a hard training session with Yomo, Kaneki goes to a bar where he learns some more lore about his kind. According to Itori, the owner of the bar, there is a rumor of another one-eyed ghoul whose Kakugan is on the opposite side that Kaneki has his. As it turns out, half-bred ghouls are far superior to full-blooded ones. Who would have guessed? Kaneki also learns that someone was on the rooftop of the building Rize was killed in just before she was about to eat him. After that, Sunday rolls around and Kaneki goes on his coffee date with Tsukiyama. Naturally, Kaneki asks him about his friendship with Rize, which pisses off Tsukiyama so much that he breaks his coffee cup. When Kaneki sees this and tries to help him, he cuts his finger. Of course. Because he is a cannibal, Tsukiyama jumps at the opportunity to get some of Kaneki's blood on his handkerchief and takes it to the bathroom so he can, such a tender and mellow homily. Yeah, Tsukiyama's not just 100% ghoul, he is 100% freaky too. After whatever that was, Tsukiyama invites Kaneki over to his mansion to shower and gives Kaneki new clothes. And then we find out that he was actually dressing Kaneki up for his underground fight club. Basically, he lures humans into his home and he has them killed live for other high society ghouls to enjoy. But when Kaneki defeats the giant inbred monster butcher they sent out to kill him, Tsukiyama stops the fight once he realizes that Kaneki is actually a half-ghoul. But don't think this is where it ends, because this guy has a few tricks up his sleeve for our boy Kaneki. Episode 5 is called Scar. We catch up with the Enteku squad as Yoshimura asks Kaneki to pay Tuka a visit since she called in sick. In order to make her human best friend Yoriko happy, Tuka has been selflessly eating the cooked food Yoriko brings her at lunch. This, of course, makes her sick, but she obviously can't reveal to Yoriko why she hasn't been eating as much at lunch. Things get really awkward though when Yoriko brings food for Tuka and sees Kaneki there as well. Yoriko isn't sure what to think, so she just leaves the food with Tuka and dips. Meanwhile, someone else who has their mind up Kaneki, Tsukiyama, hasn't given up just yet. Still, he knows Kaneki will never trust him again, so he comes up with a plan to lure Kaneki into a trap. Basically, Tsukiyama plans to kidnap someone close to Kaneki to use as bait, and when Kaneki comes to rescue them, well, Tsukiyama is gonna have his way with our boy, So he starts spying on Kaneki to see who is the most important person in his life. As fate would have it, Kaneki decides to meet up with Nishio's girlfriend Kimi. Nishio hasn't been doing so well after his fight with Kaneki. The stomach wound Kaneki gave him just won't heal, which means Nishio hasn't been eating and is getting weaker every day. So Kimi begs Kaneki to help her man before he dies of hunger and whatnot, but what these two don't know is a freaky force nearby is waiting to strike. Yeah, Tsukiyama has been listening to their whole conversation and mistakes Kimi for Kaneki's girlfriend. So when Kaneki leaves, Tsukiyama kidnaps Kimi to use as bait for his master plan. After Tsukiyama reveals where he is hiding Kimi, Kaneki and Nishi team up to go rescue her. But of course, this is Tsukiyama we're talking about, so things go from bad to weird when he spits out his plans for Kaneki. Do allow me to explain. I shall feast upon sweet Kaneki, but even as I do, I want him to feast upon her. With Nishio being so weak and Kaneki lacking fighting skills, the two guys aren't exactly a match for Tsukiyama, but soon enough, Tuka shows up to save the day, again. Yeah, she does that a lot. Still, because Tuka has been eating all that human food, she isn't in great condition either. During all this, Tsukiyama reveals that he had a crush on Tuka while they were working together at the Enteku Cafe years earlier. The three tried to hold him off, but he has been eating way better than they have, so his Kagune is far stronger. Neither of the three can activate their Kagune, so Tsukiyama makes easy work of them. Especially Nishio, who gets repeatedly stomped on when he tries to stop Tsukiyama from getting to Kimi. Damn, he might be an average fighter, but he is a great boyfriend. But just as things look hopeless, Kaneki gives Tuka some of his blood, which is enough to get her to activate her Kagune. Now, the fight is really on. In episode 6, called Cloud Burst, we get thrown right back into the middle of the fight. Now that Tuka has the energy she needs, she goes up against Tsukiyama in one of the best fight sequences in the entire first season. But in the end, it's Nishio who distracts Tsukiyama long enough for Tuka to send him packing. After the fight ends, Nishio crawls to where Tsukiyama has Kimi tied up. As the two lovebirds reunite after all the drama, Tuka says something that sends a chill down Nishio's spine. Kimi has seen too much and has to die. It's sad, but true. Now that Kimi knew they were all ghouls, she could go to the CCG and rat them out. So after Tuka gets Nishio away from Kimi, Tuka has to end her. But, as she walks up to Kimi, something unexpected happens. Kimi tells Tuka her Kagune is beautiful. This is the first time Tuka has ever been complimented like this, and it stops her dead in her tracks. Beautiful? That was too much for Tuka to process, so she disappears, leaving Kimi unharmed. After rescuing Kimi, Nishio and Kaneki then team up again, but this time to serve the customers at Enteku. This is thanks to Yoshimura taking in Nishio so that he can heal his wounds. But things aren't as fortunate for Dr. Fueguchi, the guy who's been helping Yamori to replace his torture device. Ever since Yamori's last visit, Dr. Fueguchi's life has been an absolute nightmare. You see, After Dr. Fueguchi sent his wife Ryoku and his daughter Hinami to Enteku, he hoped that giving Yamori a new torture device would be enough for Yamori to leave him and his family alone. And maybe, just maybe, he could get to see his wife and daughter again. But let's be real here, Yamori is practically allergic to kindness. So after getting the new device, he thanks the doctor by casually throwing him through the office wall. We then find out that all of this chaos is being watched by CCG investigators Mato and Amon. They trail Jason all the way to Dr. Fueguchi's office, and now they have a chance to kill both ghouls. Still, the investigators can't keep up with an S-tier ghoul like Yamori. He simply entertains the fight, then disappears. After that, Dr. Fueguchi manages to crawl out of his office, but ends up getting caught by Mato and Amon. When Dr. Fueguchi tries to attack the investigators, Mato kills him and removes his Kagune. All while Dr. Fueguchi is holding a drawing from his daughter Hinami. As this is happening, Hinami is back at Enteku having an argument with her mom. Hinami really wants to see her dad, but Ryoku can't explain to her why this is so dangerous. The two end up forgiving each other and Ryoku takes out Hinami to get a present. What Ryoku doesn't know though, is that Amon and Mato are close spies searching for her and Hinami. Normally, rain dulls a ghoul's senses, but Hinami has a great sense of smell, so when she picks up her dad's scent, she runs right into Mato and Amon holding her dad's Kagune. Brutal! Realizing they were in a trap, Ryoku uses her Kagune to protect Hinami long enough to tell her to run. Episode 7, titled Captivity, picks up with Hinami running for her life, desperately trying to get back to Enteku. But she ends up bumping into somebody and falls down. This is when Kaneki, who was also outside, spots Hinami from across the street and runs over to her. As soon as Kaneki reaches where Hinami is, she tells them that the doves are about to kill her mom. So Kaneki follows Hinami back to the alleyway, but only just in time to see Ryoku get killed by Amon and Mato. Good God. When Tuka hears about this, let's just say she doesn't take it too well. Meanwhile, at the CCG headquarters, Amon and Mato present their evidence from tracking down Hinami. The investigators have already killed both of her parents. Now, they have the green light to get Hinami too. But before they can do that, Tuka has some unfinished business with them. Despite Yoshimura's warning not to take revenge, Tuka tracks down Amon and his co-investigator Kusaba. Yep, this guy, to their favorite noodle shop. As they walk out, Tuka, wearing her rabbit mask, attacks them, killing Kusaba in an instant. She would have taken out Amon too, if Mato didn't show up with his new Queen K. After getting outmatched by Mato, Tuka barely manages to escape him and returns to Enteku. When Yoshimura hears about Toku's disobedience, he simply turns his back on her. But Kaneki vows to help her instead. This is when Tuka comes up with the plan to lure the investigators into a sewage waterway, because it would be hard for them to use their Queen Ks in a small space. In episode 8, titled Circular, we see Mato and Amon hatch a plan to capture Tuka in the waterways. Apparently, Mato already knows that Tuka was trying to lure them in there to finish things off, so he's actually going there to get her instead. Their plan was to use the scent of Hinami's mom to trick Hinami into coming outside into the waterway as well. They knew that Tuka would come to rescue Hinami, which would give them a 2-for-1 deal. Yikes. This works perfectly, as Tuka and Kaneki team up to look for Hinami. This is also when Kaneki puts on his mask for the first time. Man, it looks so sick. After agreeing to split up, Amon runs into Kaneki, while Mato sneaks up on Tuka and Hinami in the waterways. Both ghouls take two different approaches. Kaneki wants to stop the ghoul on human violence, so at first he allows Amon to use his Queen Gaze to beat him up, but just before Amon kills him, Kaneki steals a bite from Amon which gives him just enough strength to bring out his Kagune. Kaneki then warns Amon to run before he loses control of his Kagune. Mato, on the other hand, runs out of luck. Tuka was in no mood to spare any human life, especially his. So when Hinami uses her Kagune to break him apart, Tuka gladly finishes the job. After all that, Yomo finds Kaneki, Tuka, and Hinami, and carries them back to Enteku.